Hi there. My name is Colby Cooley, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development at the Economic Development Corporation of Utah. We're a nonprofit located here in Salt Lake City that really helps with clients that are considering some kind of an expansion or a relocation into this market. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, appreciate the invitation from BioHive. This presentation that you're going to see here today that I'm going to run through is really what we use to orient clients that we're hosting here in the market as they are considering some kind of an investment in Utah. So we will run through it. To give you a basic understanding of EDCUtah and the role that we play, we've been around for the better part of 35 years. And really, we function as the project management team or the boots on the ground assistance for these companies, again, that are considering some kind of an expansion or relocation. We have got partners in the private and public sectors that really help not only underwrite our mission, but also help us accomplish the goal of servicing the needs of the client that vary really across the board, case by case, and being responsive to their needs. I like to say that our team's a Swiss Army knife, that they're able to pull on different tools from our network, from our internal resources, so that, again, we can make that process as streamlined as possible for our partners. And we are under contract with the state of Utah to provide these services, as well as our partners in the public sector at the city and county municipal level. So the three big things that we like to highlight: young, educated, fast growing. Those are the three biggest things that Utah has to boast for it, even when you dial down on the industry specifics. And so we want to make it quick. This is typically a half-hour presentation in our boardroom, nice and comfortable with the client. And those, again, are the three things I want them to take away and remember from it above anything else. So here you'll see on the sides a couple of metrics popping up. This gets to the age and really what the economy looks like for us. So job growth, Utah for the better part of the 10s and 20s, Utah has led the nation in job growth. And so you see there that unemployment rate dips down 1.9% or so. That can sometimes be a little uncomfortable to the client sitting in the room that is going to come in and try to hire a high number of people. This gives us the opportunity to tell them not only about our demographics around age and population growth that is organic to the state, which typically leads the country. We're either 1, 2, or 3 in organic growth. But it also gives us an opportunity to talk about the people that are moving into Utah, which are really helping funnel that pipeline of talent into companies that are expanding here. And they're making it possible for us to have that kind of weird situation where you've got high job growth, but also low unemployment rate. That doesn't typically work that way, but really, again, the funnel of people coming into the state is what is able to keep things afloat and not let the economy here overheat. Moving into highlighting our highly educated population, you can see the metrics here on the screen. The one thing that we really like to point out is that you've got 40,000 new people moving into the labor market out of our system of higher education every year. So not only can the client be comfortable with the people that they're going to hire today on day one, but they're going to be able to understand where those people are going to come from 10 years, 20 years, however far along down the line. And then the little bit of a pocket ace that we've got here in Utah that we really like to highlight for people is the diversity of languages that are spoken as a second language. That is really a unique factor that we like to highlight, again, to be able to help them understand that not only do we have these other strengths in cost competitiveness and availability of talent, the talent base has a kind of a little secret, again, pocket ace that really helps us differentiate ourselves for any company that is looking to do any kind of international business. This is a great market to run international sales teams or international customer contact teams out of because you can find just about any language you need to right here in Utah. So at this point, we like to orient the client with this market. You can see there on the slide the overall map of Utah. Hopefully they're at least aware of where we're at in the United States, but sometimes that's not the case. So you've got the orange United States map there at the bottom, again, to orient themselves. The shaded area we like to highlight, this is where about 2.2 million of people of our total just over 3 million population live. And so that really makes it a fairly densely populated 100-mile by about 40-mile corridor, and we are able to help them understand, here's where, orient yourselves, here's where the end of this corridor lies up in Ogden. That's really a hotbed for manufacturing. We can jump in and help them understand who might be in that market specifically. We can talk about what's going on down in Provo in some of the IT software spaces and so on and so forth. And then you're right here in Salt Lake City in the middle. And so between an hour north and an hour south, you're going to have access to, again, 2.2 million people. And so again, it makes a small population state feel a little bit more densely populated, feel a little bit like a larger market than maybe it is. And again, to continue up on that comparison and help orient themselves, we've got 4 markets there that the Wasatch front, that combination of the 3 MSAs of Ogden, Provo, and Salt Lake City. Really, it functions as one market, and so we're able to help them understand, hey, this is a lot like Charlotte. This is a lot like Sacramento, if you're more familiar with West Coast markets. And again, it just kind of helps them understand what their expectations should be. So from here, we move on into the business environment. The 3 things that we like to highlight here: connected, affordable, and expert. Again, we like to keep things in nice, easy, nice and neat batches of 3, easy for the client to take away, easy for us to highlight the rest of the site visit when we're maybe out on the road looking at different properties or out in the community meeting with different people. And so you see here on this excellent slide, really all of the things that we were talking about when we were highlighting our connectivity. So you've got international flights on the right there, helping them understand that they can really do international business right out of Salt Lake City with very little business disruption and great access into Europe predominantly. It gives us an opportunity to talk to them about routes that we think are going to come, that our partners at the airlines are telling us are going to come to Salt Lake City, so we can talk about access in the future into Korea, into Japan, so on and so forth. And again, help them understand that this is a market that is being invested in by not only the airlines, but the rest of the things here that we're going to cover. You've got the railroads here. So if it's a manufacturer, we can help them understand the connectivity predominantly to the West Coast. We can talk about the fact that Utah, Salt Lake City specifically, is where the 3 Class 1 rail lines all meet coming off of the West Coast for the first time, and therefore moving product for them into or out of the West Coast is going to be extremely easy with that cost benefit that comes with it too. And again, part of this is just orientation, helping them understand again that it's easy to access not only the United States and the large market that is, but again, international access out as well. Hitting on some of the numbers here. These are obviously of immense importance to companies, and these are still something that, even though Utah has experienced some cost pressure as our market has grown and as companies have moved here, it is great for us to still be able to highlight that we're still extremely cost competitive, typically against the markets that these companies are coming from. So anything on the coast, we're still going to be extremely competitive against it. Anything on the East Coast, the same story. Chicago, Atlanta, some of these other a little less traditional, we can show them this is still going to be a cost competitive market, again, with a young, educated population. You've really got everything that you need here to help your business realize an opportunity to save costs while still doubling down on the talent that you can find here and on all the advantages and other infrastructure that exist in Utah as well. So we highlight things like wages, 14% lower than the national average. We talk about our business tax climate. We talk about lease rates and real estate inputs that they need to look at. Really, again, just highlighting across the board the strength here in our competitiveness on the cost basis with markets around us. This is a little bit of a unique slide, and it's something that we like to highlight because it's not typically something that businesses are going to think about, but we want them to be aware of it. So the Hochman Index looks at the diversity of a state's economy. And so Utah typically is anywhere near the top in the United States on the Hochman Index, which tells us that we've got a diversity of jobs and we've got a diversity of inputs in Utah's economy. And the thing that does for any employer, it really helps them feel like this market is secure. With a diverse economy, you become more resilient against any kind of an economic downturn. And so it gives, again, an opportunity for us to talk about, hey, here's what happened in the pandemic downturn. Here's what happened in the major financial crisis in the 2010s. It gives us, again, an opportunity just to help them understand this is a secure market for you. There's not going to be as many big waves in our economy here in Utah just because back 20, 30, 40 years ago, the state realized that this was an issue for us, being heavily dependent on one industry specifically, and worked extremely diligently to diversify that out and really protect us against any kind of big swings in the economy. So, moving to life sciences specifically, for the reason that we are here today. This is a big part of our pipeline and one that is growing constantly. EDCUtah right now is managing right about 13 projects in the life sciences space, which puts it at over 10% of our total project load. And we see that increasing all the time. We field calls from site selection consultants, just businesses themselves that have heard about an expansion coming up in Utah or know of some kind of contact in their network who went to the University of Utah or is somehow connected to the life sciences community here, and they want to learn more. And so we see this as a growth opportunity for our pipeline specifically. And then when you look at the partnerships with, again, BioHive, BioUtah, the state of Utah, the universities, Salt Lake City, there's just immense momentum in this specific space, and we've got such a great foundation to build from that we're excited about it and are putting a lot of resources into it internally. So again, they probably already know this if they're in the life sciences space, but we like to talk to them about who are some of the foundational players here in life sciences in Utah. They're going to recognize Edwards Life Sciences. They're hopefully going to recognize, Myriad, Varix, Merit, whoever it is, and it's going to give us an opportunity to tell them the story about those businesses and their experience in Utah. Again, just to help them understand, visualize, hey, here's where the strengths already are in the economy. Here's where you can fit in. And then we love to highlight recent wins that our team has managed. And again, these are, we almost really like to boast at this point, like, hey, look at these players, significant players in the space in your industry that have recently decided to make a move to Utah. We can tell you what their process was like. We can tell you the things that were important to them, the metrics they looked at, the decision drivers that led towards their decision to come here. And then in a lot of cases, we can put you in touch with them so that you can discuss right from their perspective, right directly with them, why they're here, what they would do differently, what their challenges are, what they're excited about. That's something that we really like to do because they can listen to me all day, but at the end of the day, I'm a spokesman for the state, and so we like to put them right in touch with their peers in their industry. Trajectory-wise, this is an opportunity, again, for us to really boast about the metrics in the life sciences space. You can see there a few of these numbers. Number one for academic life sciences R&D growth, 16 to 18. The one that I love to talk about is in that pandemic period, that 2020, kind of frightening, a lot of paralysis by analysis in the market right there. At that specific time, life sciences employment in Utah shot up 7.2%. And we don't see that pausing at any point. And so again, it's an opportunity for us to say, this market is continuing to grow. There's continued investment in this space, and we think that strengthens the ecosystem for a player like you to come in, fill a gap, or join in with partners that are already here. It's nothing but, I'd say smooth sailing for this industry, specifically here going forward, even when you have something crazy like the pandemic come in and impact us. To see that growth still through that phase is something, again, that we really like to drill in on. Interesting graph here. So the bars that you see there, again, we like to highlight this, an extremely strong slide for Utah. So if you took that 100 national average bar that you see there slightly on the left side of the page, that would be the average employment if you looked at the United States. How many people are in biomedical engineers or biological technicians if you look at the national average? Anything above a 100 means that you've got a density of that specific skill set in your market. And look at some of these numbers, 183, 265, 356. So we've got 3.5 times the average in medical equipment and supplies manufacturing in Utah, 3.5 times the national average. And so again, it helps an employer understand, hey, we're going to have a strong pipeline of talent here that's already in this market, that already has the skill set that we're going to need, already has the interest in our industry. Recruitment is going to be easier here than some of these other markets that we'll look at. And then talk to them about what the wages look like. These are some of the larger life sciences specific markets that we compete against. Obviously, it's no secret to people that there's strength in California, in New England, Minnesota, the Research Triangle. We will highlight these just because, again, they're probably familiar with those markets and understand what they're looking at. And so comparing Utah to it, seeing extremely competitive numbers across the board there really helps us, again, to kind of stand out really quickly. But what we'll do also is tailor these if they are looking at some other markets. Say they're looking at going to Denver, which we compete with often, or say they're looking at going to Austin or whatever. We'll pull those in as well so that we can, again, give them that apples to apples comparison and continue to just highlight and pound the message forward of Utah's competitiveness. Continue that on here with some of the roles that you see at the bottom. we really have to focus in on, again, here's where the strengths are, here's where you're going to be able to find success. And this is such an important factor for these companies coming in, that even with the wage growth that we've seen here in Utah, not only in the life sciences industry, but really across the board, we're still extremely competitive against these other markets that you're either coming out of or probably looking at. Speaking to the talent-wise, this is where we have an opportunity to highlight some of the really strong players in innovation and in workforce development here in the state. So we get to talk about the Medical Innovations Pathway Program. We get to talk about what our partners are doing at the higher education level. And it just really helps, again, drive home the total global support system that they're going to have here in the ecosystem in Utah. And finally, to wrap it up, we like to talk about some misperceptions or challenges that we've got here in Utah, because we want to be upfront and honest with the client that's in the room. And so it's an opportunity for us to talk about what the state is doing around diversity and inclusion, and really tell them, we understand that there's a perception out there of Utah being, a homogenous market and whatnot, and it gives us the opportunity to say, when you look at the data, Utah is actually diversifying faster than the national average, and we see that as an immense strength for us here, and we want to build on that momentum. And so we get to talk about what our partners over at the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging are doing, that they are out in the market building asset maps for assets in the market that impact our multicultural communities, and how identifying those assets is driving investment not only from the state but also from the private sector, so that we can help lift those communities and help drive them more into not this industry specifically, not just this industry specifically, but really across the board. And we understand that we still have a lot of work to do, I think, but we like to set the bar straight as to where we're actually at today and all the things that we're doing to try to, again, lift all boats as we experience this immense success here in Utah. And so, nice and short, as I said, in summary, young, fast-growing, highly educated. On the business side, lower wages, diverse economy, low operating costs. And then in inclusion, you've got really from the state down a focus on lifting our multicultural populations and helping empower them to share in the prosperity, really, again, that the state of Utah has experienced. And so at that point, hopefully there's questions, and we will sit there and go back through the different slides and whatnot and make sure that all things are answered and that the client totally understands the message that we're trying to put out. And then hopefully we've got an opportunity to take them out into the market and start to build their network here and rely on our partners to help us drive the point home that there's nowhere better for their company than here in Utah.